This video production workflow is dumb, expensive, and frankly overkill, but it's mine. I have two 4K cameras plugged into capture cards. I have an XLR audio setup with a Shure SM7B. I have lights I control with my Stream Deck. And the nexus point for all of this is my MacBook Pro running OBS Studio. Most people think OBS is for streaming. And they're right, but I almost never stream. I use all this technology for a streamlined, low-friction video production workflow, at least for my talking head and other A-cut shots. Why do I do this? What's the point? In short, convenience in recording, reduction in file sizes, and simplicity in editing. But before we get started, make sure you subscribed, and if you enjoy this video, leave a like. It all really helps out a great deal. Let's begin. First, my OBS workflow provides a lot of convenience in recording. Because I have two cameras, a nice audio setup, and sometimes do screen recordings, doing all of that separately is honestly cumbersome. If I recorded everything separately, I'd have to record my cameras and my mic, sync those up, and then if I do screen capture, find some way to sync that up as well. Then this adds a whole bunch of extra steps in my editing workflow, like making a scene to have like my screen capture, my mic, and my cropped down camera file all together in one scene. Obviously, this isn't horrible, and most creators do make their content this way, but this is contrasted with my actual workflow. If I want to do some screen capture, I simply need to change scenes in OBS. It's one click. Converting some of my editing workflow to be a far more convenient recording workflow is way faster and way less friction for me. Also, if I want to change camera angles, all I need to do is one little click and change the scene. That's my back camera, and that's my front camera. So convenient. In addition to this dramatically increased convenience, streamlining my recording to be one track in OBS instead of many different files cuts down on file sizes so much. In my recording workflow, I utilize two camera angles. Here's one, here's two. I make use of my full audio setup with my Shure SM7B and XLR interface. And as shown, I sometimes capture my screen as well, especially for like Ocarina of reviews where I show the Amazon page, things like that. As discussed, not only is recording all of these separately really inconvenient, I'd be wrangling many gigabytes of files for every single video. My main camera is shooting in 4K. If I leave it running the whole time, this generates gigantic files, but this is the main camera I use for my videos. But if I have my back camera running the entire time, this makes just as large of a 4K video file, but I only use it for a few moments throughout the video, such as the beginning, end, and a couple transitions. And if I want to record my audio as a separate WAV file, that is yet another couple gigabytes to contend with. And if I'm to capture my screen, that is yet another file. Instead, I record everything in OBS. I use two 4K capture cards for my cameras, sync that up with my mic via the USB XLR interface, and simply use OBS's built-in display capture functionality whenever I need to do screen capture. One file instead of many. All these things that could be separate large files become one far smaller file. One video I made where I recorded everything individually before I had the streamlined workflow, 30 minutes of footage was 45 gigabytes. That's expected for a video project, but still, I don't want to be wrangling gigantic files all the time. In comparison, a 34-minute video using this workflow only produced a 10 gigabyte video file. Much more manageable. Yes, the audio and video quality may be a little bit lower as it's not like video direct from the camera or a raw WAV file. But for uploading to YouTube, people don't notice this kind of difference, in most cases. To further reduce file size, I can even pause the recording in OBS. For example, I might need to prep a scene like getting a particular web page for a screen capture, practice my script a couple times so I don't flub my lines, or even if I need to step away, use the bathroom, break up a cat fight on my bed, which I actually had to do in this recording. And even if I pause and resume the recording, everything remains conveniently synced. My cameras and mic are still together, and so is my screen capture. When there's less to edit, editing goes much faster. On that note, my old workflow with many separate files took so long to edit. Whether that's the tiny tedium of syncing my audio and video, turning both my camera angles into like that weird multi-angle thingy for easy multi-camera editing, or figuring out how to sync my screen captures. It was a major hassle, and having all these large files running all at once made my video editing software lag. Contrast this with my single file OBS workflow. The only things I need to do when I first cut are to remove dead air, ums and buts, things like that, as well as when I flub lines. And by saving so much time in editing the first cut of my video, I gained so much time to do more creative things. Whether that's more stylistic edits, learning to shoot better B-roll, or simply having more time to focus on and flesh out ideas to make more videos. Real quick, when I say like first cut or a cut, that is simply trimming down the start to finish recording I do in OBS. No fancy edits, no SFX, no music. no text on the screen, no B-roll added, sometimes no B-roll even shot yet. And the B-cut is when I add B-roll effects, music, text, things like that. Then I might do some additional final revisions, export and upload. But the whole point of this workflow is to remove friction. I have removed as much friction as humanly possible from having an idea and turning it into a video. Between making recording that much easier, cutting down file sizes so I don't need to do as much maintenance or organization, and speeding up my editing through the virtue of having such a streamlined recording, I've removed so much friction and get so much more creativity done. Even if you don't employ this exact workflow, how can you remove friction between having an idea and making something out of it? Maybe your biggest point of friction is how long it takes to edit a video. Maybe take some time to memorize hotkeys or map them to something like a Stream Deck. Maybe your point of friction is in generating ideas. If it's an issue of getting the ball rolling, try listing as many horrible ideas as you possibly can. Chances are your ideas will not stay horrible for very long. And maybe you're exactly like me and should just record everything in OBS so you only have one file to deal with. My workflow is over the top, expensive, and overkill, but it's mine, and it works for me. And it's also worth noting that because of my last job where I worked for a capture card manufacturer and streaming tech peripherals, etc., I had a lot of this technology lying around, so that made it a lot less expensive for me to set this up. That said, it is still overkill, and I frankly don't recommend spending hundreds of dollars just to have a slightly more convenient video production setup. Still, find ways to remove friction. My OBS workflow simplifies my creativity and removes so much friction. It makes recording videos a breeze, dramatically reduces file sizes, and makes the editing process a lot simpler. It might not work for you and it doesn't have to, but this is simply a workflow that removes friction for me. On that note of removing friction, if you're a creator who's struggling to build your brand and presence online, consider learning more about content optimization. Effectively, it's the process of turning one idea into many pieces of content. It lets you get a lot more out of your creative effort, and I have a video on it right here. Otherwise, thanks for watching, leave a like, subscribe for more, watch that video next, and I'll see you next time. Happy creating.